deserve that because they've spent the last 2 years getting our economy back on track, not trying to put obstacles in the way, creating jobs, trying to get lending to our small businesses. You know, we finally passed the small business lending bill through Congress this week. And the Republicans who said they were the party of small business spent the last 2 or 3 months filibustering that in the Senate. Tell me how that helps small business in New Mexico. They are not the party of small business. We are, and I see many small business faces in this room today, and that's why we're going to be successful in November. Even through this incredible downturn and a tough recession, here in central New Mexico, we've been able to create some good jobs. We've seen our high-tech industry gain several thousand jobs, an increase in revenues even through the midst of the downturn. And as one of the only engineers in Congress, I will continue to work to be a strong advocate for leveraging our public resources, things like Sandia National Labs and Air Force Research Labs, to create private sector jobs, high-tech jobs, and make sure we do tech transfer. And I'm going to continue to support the revolution in green energy that even in the midst of the Republicans in the Senate doing everything they can to stall and stop clean energy legislation in this Congress, we have incredible examples of people creating jobs right here in New Mexico. We've got architects and green builders like Environmental Dynamics and installers like Affordable Solar and Loose Energy, and even manufacturers like Sumco here in Albuquerque that is retooling for the green energy economy because of the Recovery Act, and Shot Solar and others. We're going to build on that for a brighter future for our kids. I fought hard to save 1,000 jobs at our Air National Guard unit, who has served this state and this nation well, going all the way back to World War II. And it was because of Democrats like Harry T. and Ben Ray Lujan and myself, that over 1,000 teachers are not laid off this year from our school. They are in the classroom, and we deserve to give them a round of applause. To our teachers. My son Carter's in the 2nd grade in public school here in Albuquerque. I think he's playing with his matchboxes somewhere in the back there. And I can tell you he appreciates being in a classroom that doesn't have 50 children to one teacher, which is exactly where we'd be this year if it hadn't been for Congress stepping up and acting. And we did that. We paid for it by closing a tax loophole that actually gave companies a benefit to move jobs overseas. How anybody can argue with that is beyond me. Now, if you want to understand the magnitude of the hole we were left with, that President Bush put us in at the end of his term, just think about the fact that as frustrated as we are with the job growth in the last year, we've created more jobs in 2010 than the entire net gain of 8 years of the Bush administration. That tells you what we're digging out of. We have righted the ship, we are moving forward, but there are a lot of New Mexico families who are still struggling. And we're not going to stop until every New Mexican who wants to work can find a job.
Yeah.
When we talk to our friends and neighbors, we need to lay out the alternatives for them. Because as New Mexicans, we simply cannot afford to allow John Boehner and John Barela to take us back to the disastrous policies that put our nation in distress. Let's be clear about what the National Republicans are talking about, because I've gotten a chance to get to know them a little bit and watch what their policy priorities are. Watch what they put in their alternative budgets. While most Americans are struggling to keep a job or find a job, they want to give tax cuts to the millionaires and billionaires and blow a $700 billion hole in our budget deficit. And then they say, well, we've got issues with the budget, so we need to privatize Social Security, raise the retirement age to 70, turn Medicare into a voucher program because of the very hemorrhaging that their tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires are going to cause. And if that's not enough, my opponent actually signed a pledge to keep that tax benefit I was telling you about that helps American jobs move our jobs offshore. So ship the jobs offshore. Don't have Wall Street, no oversight over Wall Street. Maybe we'll turn your retirement, your Social Security over to Wall Street at the same time. That's the kind of leadership that we're going to get if the word speaker ever goes in front of the name John Boehner. But we're not going to let that happen. Do you intend to let any of that happen?
No.
Do you want to go back to the dark ages of Tom DeLay and George Bush? No. We're not going to let that happen, and it's because of the people in this room. And frankly, you are the firewall for decent government, not only in New Mexico, but in this country. If John Boehner were to become Speaker of the House, it would mean they would need to pick up seats in New Mexico. It would mean that they would have to win my seat back. It would mean that they would have to win Harry Teague's seat back. So your work draws a line in the sand in New Mexico that says we're not only going to hold on to the progress that we have made for future generations of New Mexicans, for hardworking people in this state, but we're going to stand up for the rest of the country right here in New Mexico. Because when we win Harry Teague's seat, when we win the 1st Congressional District of New Mexico, we make sure that we don't lose the House of Representatives, that Social Security never gets privatized, that Medicare is never a voucher program, and that we create incentives to build jobs here, not offshore.
Yeah.
All of you can keep New Mexico true blue. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Be ready to fight for Heinrich.
Yeah.
He's got to work hard to elect Martin. He's going to continue the business of Democrats in Washington. Also joining us today is our great auditor,